Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Fire Up Florida. My name is Scott Morgan, with Motor City Madmouth. And yes, you see three people, and these two you probably see a lot before it's all said and done. First of all, my right, my colleague George Eichhorn. Welcome up to this Fire Up Florida show.
Welcome, welcome. It's good to be on. Thank you, Scott, for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
And my co-host here is Rod Peterson. Welcome back, Rod.
What's going on, Scott? Good to see you.
Good
Hi,
to
George.
see you.
Hi, Rod.
And Joshua Dorr has the right answer to that question. Okay, it is Corey Perry. That's the name of the title, and he guessed it. So, what's going on, Rod and Acorn? I don't know what Acorn is. All right, he's back to his own. I don't know whether he's had any alcohol to drink, but who knows? This guy will get going before it's all said and done. And the rest of his crew will. All right, well, let everybody know what's going on here. First of all, we will talk about Steve Stamkos, a trade that was revisited between the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings. We're going to talk about the Dallas Stars getting on Gary Bettman's nerves, Corey Perry, and, of course, the Edmonton Oilers as well to sum it all up. So with that said, we'll get to our first topic. It is a Florida one. Steve Stamkos, how big of a loss is it for the Tampa Bay Lightning and a gain for the Nashville Predators? We're going to lead off with you, Rod.
I think it's massive, and it's a great topic to lead off with as a Florida sports show. And I'll instead of summing it up with a long answer, I'll say this, guys. You've been around sports a long time. I say when you get rid of your heart and soul, you get rid of your heart and soul. Steven Stamkos is the heart and soul of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I have no idea why Julian Breezeball would want to get rid of him or allow him to leave. And I'll try and keep my answers short here. But, guys, I was sitting in the room the night the Florida Panthers eliminated Tampa Bay at Amerit Bank Arena in Game 5. And John Cooper was specifically asked, Steven Stamkos' contract is expiring. Do you expect him back with Tampa next year? If you remember, John Cooper, their head coach, said he belongs here. I don't expect this will be a long negotiation. We haven't heard from John Cooper since. Free agency opens, and within 24 hours, Steven Stamkos is a Nashville Predator. So that tells me that the GM and the coach aren't on the same page. I think we saw that Steven Stamkos didn't want to leave, and the Tampa Bay Lightning had a good season last year, but I think this is going to be the start of the slide down, or the continue, like a major drop for the Lightning that they may not recover from for a long time.
Okay, George, go ahead. I know you had hopes, albeit they were long hopes, that he could join the Red Wings. But what are your thoughts about Steve?
Yeah,
joining our buddy Bill Wickett out in Nashville?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Red Wing fans obviously wanted to see if Yzerman could make an offer and bring him to Detroit. I don't know if that got very far at all, but it is a bad loss for Tampa. And there's no question about it. I agree with you, Rod. Not only are you taking away a 40-goal scorer last year, what do you have? 81 points, and your leader, your captain, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Okay, he's already got 555 goals for his career, and besides that, he's a leader. He is the captain. He is the ignition to that fire whenever the Lightning were on fire. It's a tough call, and it's a very difficult call. But I agree. I think they made a mistake. I think the Lightning made a big mistake down there. And it's hypothetical. I mean, if I said that if Stevie was still there, would have never happened. That doesn't even. I don't even want to go down that road because Stevie wasn't there, so it had nothing to do with Yzerman. But I will tell you this: is that the fans in Detroit were hoping beyond hope that they'd had a chance at him, but Yzerman went and the Red Wings went in a different direction, and they've got some other things going on. So, but yeah, I agree with you guys. I think this is a big blow to Tampa Bay's chances next year.
If there was ever a player that should have started and finished his career with one team, Steven Stamkos is it. And obviously, Steve Yzerman were in Tampa, it wouldn't have happened. But reality is, he's in Detroit. So yeah. I think we all agree that you're right. The Tampa Bay Lightning could be spiraling in the wrong direction. All right. Joshua Dorr wants to know, Rod, where are you heading since you're in your vehicle?
Home. I'm sitting here close to the ballpark, but I wanted to have a good spot that was nice and quiet. So I'm going home after this, boys.
What kind of a vehicle are you driving?
This is a Dodge Caravan. Why does anybody care? It's Canada's #1 selling minivan. And I'm in Canada for a couple more weeks, as you know, calling baseball. But we're going into the playoffs this week, so who knows how long it's going to go.
Well, you know why I asked you that question? I just got my new minivan tonight, a Honda Odyssey. So I have to go ahead and get used to driving this thing. It's a little bit different than the Jeep I've been driving, so that's why I was curious. So.
They say they're the best minivans you can have.
Oh, are they really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to be getting one for the next getting used to it for the next 3 years. That's for sure. So I don't worry. I made the salesman work for his money.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I would think a woman having a baby is easier than a salesman having to deal with me because I really grind him good. So talk about the labor. So
Make him work for it.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't worry. They
Right.
work for it. That's why my wife Candy doesn't like to go because you know what she says. That's your department. You don't. You have that thing with people where it doesn't make any difference, and that's okay. All I need to do is see the end result.
Yeah.
The one thing she did have a saying is that because of my lead foot, we weren't getting a red van, and she's right. So,
Old red car, red van. Yeah.
yeah, I won't get into my driving history on this show, but the only red we'll talk about is the Red Wings, which is a good segue to what our next topic is. The trade revisited July 9th, 2023. Ottawa receives Dominic Kubalik, Donovan Sabrango, and a conditional 24 first round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick. Detroit gets Alex DeBrincat. All right, George, you're up in those neck of the woods. What are your thoughts about that trade?
Well, it started out pretty well when last season when he first got here, I felt that he was playing a lot better than later on. I don't know exactly what happened, but he went into a situation where um, I think the teams were playing him a little bit tighter. I think maybe he just didn't have the comfort level that he had, obviously, in his previous teams. And, I give the man the benefit of the doubt because I thought it was a very good pickup by Yzerman, and I'm still optimistic. But the truth is that his stats going down the wire when Detroit was trying desperately, as you guys know, to make the playoffs and end that streak of not making the playoffs for so many years, he contributed, but not as much as he could have. There were I don't know, let's say 4 out of 6 games he had no points or maybe one assist but no goals. His goal total just dried up in that second half, and he has to put the puck in the net more. He has good people on that team around him. He's surrounded with good guys. Comper's on the team, and Lucas Raymond, of course, Dylan Larkin and Patrick Kane, et cetera, et cetera. But it's up to DeBrincat. He's got to step up. He's got to step up and show. What do you have? He had 27 goals last year and 40 assists. Not bad for an average or above average maybe player in the NHL. But for Detroit, they definitely need more firepower from him. At least 35 goals.
All right, D-Lowe's 77. Did I get a heck of a deal? You bet. I make sure I don't get bad deals because I'm going to grind them until they have to bring the manager back 9 times. And I will say one thing I had going for me in this negotiation. My brother-in-law works for Chrysler, and Honda was competing against my brother-in-law and the employee discount, so they knew they couldn't whack me on a big number. And so Honda was competing against Chrysler, and that's how I was able to pull this off. All right, to answer your question, D-Lowe's. All right, Rod, what are your thoughts about this trade?
I thought it was a great trade for Detroit because he's from there, obviously. I knew that he was going to be excited to come back. He wanted out of Ottawa. That put Detroit in a pretty good position leverage-wise. And I watched Detroit. I think they came through twice through Sunrise, and DeBrincat is a key member of that team. I'm with George. The plan that Yzerman has isn't real clear with where he's going with the Red Wings. Like signing Patrick Kane, I'll be honest, leading up to the trade deadline, everybody thought that Patrick Kane, or wherever he was going to sign, they thought he was coming to Sunrise. I was told he was. And then, boom, he ends up signing in Detroit. So it's like, okay, so you're going to make a run, but you didn't make the playoffs. So what are you guys doing? And you guys are both Michigan guys, so you might know a guy by the name of Lou Gamelin. hosts the show Captain Lou's Sports Extravaganza. He's my Red Wings guy, although maybe you guys are now. But he goes, I said to him, what is up with the Wings this year? And he goes, we were missing a goalie. And you would think Steve Yzerman would know that. A guy that won Stanley Cups as a player, won Stanley Cups as a GM. You kind of need a goalie. And signing Alex Lyon, the former Florida Panther, we saw what he did in Florida. He's not a number one guy. And he was the number one guy in Detroit this year. So that was the failing. What I do have been told, and of course I'm in Canada where hockey reigns, Ken Holland left the Wings in salary cap hell that Steve Yzerman's still digging out. And that's something I don't like to touch. That's something I don't understand, and I'm not a GM. That might be the answer as to why the plan isn't that clear for what Steve Yzerman's done. He's still cleaning up a mess left by Ken Holland.
All right, I'll give you one of the shortest answers I can give you. The fact of the matter is, you bring in DeBrincat, and he was your best recruiter to get Patrick Kane. That's what you ended up with. And I'm talking about recruiter, okay? And obviously, Patrick came to Detroit. How did that work out? He's back for another year. And yeah, no, it's pretty hard to debate what you're talking about there, Ron, about Ken Holland and the salary cap situation and Steve Yzerman having to try to clean up that mess. Do you think cleaning up bad money is easy? Good luck. It's not.
Yes,
a lot of GMs have to deal with it.
They did win 4 Stanley Cups in Ken's time. I remember in the playoffs this year, watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, there was a trivia question on ESPN saying who's won the most Stanley Cups in Gary Bettman's era, and I had to look it up, and it was Detroit's won 4. So I don't think Ken Holland's apologizing for anything, nor should he.
No,
but it's a different era now than it was 30 years ago when Gary Bettman took over.
Well, great point.
Yeah.
Okay, onward we go. You talked about Bettman. What a great segue. Peterson, I swear, you do this every week. Hello, great minds think alike. George, that's why this guy is one of the best we have here on the network, because every time I lead to something, he spits out a name, and that's where we're headed with the next topic. All right, Rod. Great stuff, Mr. Peterson, and we got more to do. All right, so let's talk about Bettman. The Dallas Stars make a move that cost Gary Bettman millions, and fans love it. Dallas signed a new deal with Victory Plus, which will allow all fans in their regional broadcast zone to watch every single one of their games for free. Oh, you want to get on Bettman's nerve? That's the way to do it, right, Mr. Peterson?
I saw the headline on this. I'm not as clear on the story. I've some Stars fans that are happy with the deal. There's a streaming, I guess, is a big portion of this. I don't know. Look what the new deal that the Panthers signed with Scripps this year. We're going to get the majority of the games on local television where I live in Boca Raton for free. So I saw the headline that Bettman was upset. To be honest, I didn't click on it because I thought it was fake news. You guys are going to have to fill me in on this. I don't know why. I would think he would want the games on in more televisions than anywhere. Bottom line.
Well, I mean, judging by my sources that I have, let's face the reality. We all know that the Bally's and the Diamond situation is obviously upside down. So
yeah,
if local markets can find other ways to get the games to them and they can make them for free, well, yeah, it comes down to Rod this, okay? Where is streaming going and what networks are upside down and bankruptcy and whatever, because they have to scramble to get their games out there somewhere. And obviously, we know full well that when they get them on for free, they're going to be selling a boatload of advertising. Is the only way that I can justify it based on the sources that I have. So I'll stay with that. And if any other updates come out, we'll certainly bring them to you in future shows. So I'm happy if this is indeed what the Stars have pulled off and their fans get them for free. More power to them. You know, the fans are entitled, and let's face it, if they want to go out there, you know they're going to charge them a fair amount of money to show up at the games.
Yeah, it's a confusing world. Again, my Stars fan friends are happy with the deal. Maybe what they're saying Bettman might be upset with is they didn't get as much in rights fees than they should have. But I'll tell you what, man, there was a lot of panic Panthers fans in South Florida, as you know, where we all live, that they were going to have to pay extra for Panthers games or whatever. And wasn't it interesting? The second the regular season ended, any Panthers coverage went off the air with Bally's, and it's still a mess. And I didn't need it, man, because I don't watch the Marlins. Sorry. But I'm happy with this new TV deal. So I feel like the NHL is still in a time where they'll get on any network they can for as many games as they can and be happy about it.
Remember, once upon a time, and I know I might be diving into Georgia territory, but the NHL couldn't get a TV deal to save its rear end many years ago. They were on and off, on and off. We had the CBS with Dan Kelly, Jim Gordon. Then we go back to, what was it? NBC with Ted Lindsay and Peter Puck. And then for many years, it wasn't until Fox got them back on that they started to get involved. So the list goes on and on. And George, what's your take on the Stars?
Well, yeah, as I'm reading this and studying this, under the terms of the partnership, the Stars games that are not on a national broadcast will be streamed on a direct-to-consumer service called Victory Plus. So, yeah, I mean, this is bold. This is new territory. But like you guys talked about, I mean, the problems that they've been having, Bally Sports and Diamond Sports Group, when they bought them, the Stars are looking, and so are other teams. In fact, I don't know what's going to even happen in Detroit. You talk about a great TV market. Detroit, of course, part of the original six, but they're in a similar situation because the situation with Bally Sports is just too chaotic right now, and obviously it's going under. So I think you're going to see this. I mean, unless Bettman offers to help these teams in some other way, I mean, they got to go out there and get their brand situated for the local broadcasts. And so I do applaud the Stars for doing this. I mean, yeah, could be some consternation in the NFL commissioner's office, but let me tell you something. He's not paying any money for this himself. So the fans that are out there supporting the Stars or supporting the Panthers or supporting the Red Wings, they're the ones that have to see this through. And, it might be free now, but there'll be going to be a day where they're going to charge for that. I mean, but maybe like you said, Scott, it opens the door for Stars fans. And like you said, it might be free right now, but there'll be a time when they're going to move into a pay situation with streaming these Dallas Stars games, I believe.
Right, Rod, is there something you want to add to it?
No, I'm giving thumbs up on that. I couldn't agree more. That's all.
The bottom line is, George, you can help me out on this one. All right. Aren't the Red Wings, Illich and Tom Gores in the process of trying to get a regional deal there locally?
There hasn't been much said about it lately. Originally, it was just Mike Illich himself and, of course, his son and wife that were looking into it because he owns the Tigers and the Red Wings. So there was a time when the Illich family as a whole, and that's several years ago, but recently we haven't heard anything about it. That doesn't mean nothing's going on. A lot of that stuff they'll keep shielded from the media, of course, and they're trying to work it out behind the scenes. And obviously, Gores of the Pistons has worked very closely with the Red Wings and coming over to the arena and all that other stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me. I still think that could happen, Scott, but they've really left the media and the fans in the dark about that. What's going on behind the scenes?
Okay, all right, Katie, station break.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. We published a book last year. It is called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by none other than Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the beginning is written by none other than George Eichhorn. All right. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Apple, and Kindle. Get your copy today. You can also go to the South Florida Tribune webpage, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a link to buying this book. There's a link to buying George wrote a book. There's also a link to our store because I know you want some South Florida Tribune sweatshirt, hat, t-shirt maybe right now these days, shorts or sweats. Go buy a sweatshirt today. Check out our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Scott writes, George writes, I take pictures. It's all up there. And if you like to listen to podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. And if you see that little red subscribe button, that means you haven't subscribed to our channel yet. Please do so and share us with all of your friends. Monday nights, we're talking Fire Up Florida. We're talking hockey. We also talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. And Wednesday and Thursday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about. Tune in to find out. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Thank you very much, Candy. By the way, Turbo Jedum, we appreciate the kind words. Rod and George are the two best guys you got. Tell you what, you got two
Well,
great
thank you,
veterans.
thank you, sir.
Don't worry, you'll be seeing these two together a lot. I knew that on our third show, as Rod and I were getting it going, that eventually more and more people will be involved. Rod and I just want to make sure that we had the nucleus and everything down before we add other people. But thank you, Turbo. We appreciate that. All right, two more things I want to talk about. Just so you know, after Fire Up Florida, we're going to have 108 Stitches baseball talk as well. Ashton next, Eric Katz, Candy Ebling, myself, and George Eichhorn will be on that show. And we'll be talking a lot about the trade deadline. So with that said, yes, as Joshua Dorr alluded to earlier, Corey Perry was the guy that we're referring to at the bottom. And now we're going to talk about him. He's the first player ever to lose 4 Stanley Cup finals with 4 different teams. He lost one with the Dallas Stars in 2020, Montreal 2021, Tampa Bay 2022, Edmonton 2024. He did win one, though, with the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. And he's also the first player to reach a final with 5 different teams. All right, Rod, this is unbelievable. We talk about Perry in this manner.
It is. I don't know if that's a record that he would want his name beside, but I think we've been around long enough to know he's going into the history books not as that. He's going into the history books as a Stanley Cup champion. And it's funny, I'm assuming it's been announced. I mean, he signed that deal, a prorated deal last year. He was banished from Chicago, as we all know, shrouded in secrecy, picked up for a Stanley Cup run by the Edmonton Oilers, which went to Game 7, and he performed a pretty key role in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I view Corey Perry as the guy that if you want to get to the Stanley Cup, sign him. It's not his fault they lost. You know, he's a pain in the ass to play against. He's now got a little bit of baggage, but I have nothing bad to say about Corey Perry. I guess that's a dubious trivia answer that he would be, but he's got a Stanley Cup ring, and I was assisted in him finding accommodations in Edmonton for this upcoming season. So here's the scoop today. He's playing with the Oilers this year. I'm not sure if it's been announced or not, but yeah, he's in Edmonton. He's in Edmonton this summer, and excited about it.
So, Rod, let me ask you this. Let me give you a follow-up on this. What are the strongest attributes that Corey Perry brings to an NHL club?
Leadership, grit. He's not going to score a lot, but he's a guy that, listen, you're looking around the dressing room for guys that you need a guide. He's been to the top of the mountain. A lot of those guys in that Oilers dressing room had not. A lot of guys in a lot of NHL dressing rooms have not. So he's never going to let you down. He's durable. He doesn't get hurt. He's gritty. You know, he's just not going to score a bunch of goals. Not at this age, but you're going to get him fairly cheaply. And it was a great signing by the Oilers.
So in other words, you're telling me he brings a lot of intangibles is what he does to any club.
Absolutely. There's a lot of guys that don't. I mean, there's Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid can fill the net, but they've never won a Stanley Cup before. They hadn't been to a Stanley Cup final until this year. Corey Perry brings leadership.
All right, George, what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, he is in a good situation there. I agree. There's a situation that he's got to be with a veteran team. Yeah, it's too bad that he has lost out on so many other opportunities, not just his personally, but the teams that he was with. So he last year had a total of 12 goals between the Blackhawks and Edmonton. But like, Rod was saying, it's intangibles, the things you got to look at, the leadership. I like what you said about the grit. I mean, there were years, as you guys know, where this guy racked up well over 100 minutes in penalties every year. But that being said, geez, I mean, he was a 50-goal scorer with Anaheim, and another year he had I think 43 or 44. So, I mean, this guy has had the talent over the years. He can't score like that anymore. We know that. He's playing he doesn't play on the top line. But I'm just saying that Edmonton, any team that's a veteran team or any team that wants to act like a veteran team and go far in the playoffs, You need guys like this. Like the Red Wings needed a Maltby and a Draper and a Darren McCarty. I mean, you got these role players that are so very important, but especially one as effective as him, and he's going to get serious Hall of Fame attention when he hangs it up. So this is the kind of guy that you want around, like you said, the leadership and all the intangibles. I'm a Corey Perry fan. I think it's a good move if he comes back to Edmonton, as you said, Rod.
Well, I think the biggest thing about Corey Perry is this. He's not going to go titleless in his NHL career, period. I mean, all right, so you've been there 5 times, you lost 4, but at least you won 1.
Right.
They're not going to think about the 4 that you lost. They're only going to think about the 1 that you won.
That's what I'm saying.
True.
That's what I've always thought. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And now if you're the Buffalo Bills, sorry if I'm alienating the Buffalo Bills, and you go 0 for 4, let's say
That's
face
different.
reality. It is 0 for 4 or 1 for 5. I'll take the 1 for 5, but let's not kid yourself. The Buffalo Bills, to their fairness to them, they did have a lot of Hall of Famers on that team. So for a team that had won before, but
we're having a different. Yeah. Sorry, we're having a different conversation. Had he not won in 07, that's a different. But he did.
So, and that's my point, Rod. That's exactly my point. He did win a championship. A lot of great players have never won a championship. But guess what? Corey Perry is not one of them. All right. Now let's go ahead. Now Joshua Dorr. All right, this guy, when he's on, he's on. When he wants to get crazy, he gets crazy. I still want to hear George play the piano. All right, going back to his background. Okay. Why not? George, you wear it. Okay. I haven't played the piano in 9 million years. I do. The only thing I know about the piano is they have the middle C. Other than that, I don't know anything else. So, go figure. All right. Final topic of the night. We have plenty more on tap next week when George and I and Rod are at it again. The Edmonton Oilers were looking to join 4 teams that have overcome 3-0 series during a reverse sweep in the Stanley Cup Finals. And you know what? They would have been in good company if they had done it. 1942 Toronto versus Detroit. Stanley Cup Final, 1975 New York Islanders quarterfinals versus Pittsburgh. 2010 the Eastern Conference Finals between Philadelphia Flyers and the Boston Bruins. And 2014 the LA Kings versus in their first round Western Conference matchup against the San Jose Sharks. Why did I bring this up now? Because anytime you could still overcome a deficit like that, it could be talked about anytime you want to talk about it. And I think there's no better time than now to do that, because overcoming a 3-0 deficit, I mean, let's face the reality, the Boston Red Sox pulled it off against the Yankees and won a championship doing it. So what are your thoughts about the magnitude of the accomplishment of what Edmonton did do, Rod?
They still lost. So whatever. I'll tell you what, obviously I was following that series incredibly closely, more than I've always followed the Stanley Cup. But when they went down 0-3, their goalie, Stuart Skinner, said, if any team can come back, it's the Oil. And I was like, there's no way they'll get this back to Game 7. And dagnabbit, they did. I couldn't believe it. But Paul Maurice, guys, I think you realize this.
Right.
Everybody should sit down and listen to everything this guy says. His leadership should be put into a book of mental strength. And just consider this. Forget about the Oilers, man. It was causing a huge problem in my life because my wife, Serena, is a huge Oilers fan, and it was not fun in our house for a long time after that series. But Paul Maurice, going into Game 7, was asked afterwards when they won, what were your thoughts about losing it, Game 7? And he goes, I wouldn't even allow myself to think about it. And that's why I guess he's a leader. That's why he's a coach. Because I was sitting there going, just as a media guy, and I wanted the Panthers to win. I was thinking, what if they don't? This will go down as the biggest choke in Stanley Cup history. These guys won't be able to show their face in South Florida ever again. And Paul didn't allow himself to think that about it at all. And I got to think he must have passed that along to his players, because they didn't look nervous at all coming out in Game 7. So nice that the Oilers came back, but they still didn't win. And guys, it's not... All it's did is fuel their hunger in Edmonton to come back and do what the Panthers did and win it this year. And I think that'd be a very tall order.
Well, back to the chat room, Turbo Jet. I am a Stars, Kraken, and Panthers fan, being as I've lived in all these places and even played for the junior Panthers, for crying out loud. My goodness. And Joshua Dorr says, I am only a Panthers fan. Well, okay. Well, you've always told me that on our FaceTime calls, and obviously nobody's debating your fanhood. George?
Oh, I tell you what, Scott and Rod, this would have been a humongous failure if the Panthers had not won Game 7. I did not expect to see what we saw, and that was the charge of the Edmonton Oilers being down 3-0. You listed some other great teams in the past, which are some very interesting matchups that have gone down in the hockey history. But this one was really a nail biter. I mean, there's no question about it. I thought for sure that it was all done, that the Panthers would just roll. But at tell you what, Edmonton's playing on a lot of pride. They're playing on a lot of Canadian pride. We all know it's been forever and a day since Canada could hoist the Stanley Cup, any one of their teams in Canada. And then, of course, what you have in Florida? You had a team that's been around a long time and has never won the Stanley Cup. So to me, it was a great matchup. And to me, that part of it didn't surprise me, the fact that it went 7. As my colleague next to me, Scott Morganoff, predicted. He predicted it in the first round when they were asking about who are the final candidates, so who's going to make the finals. And Scott said in 7 games it's going to take. But, I thought it'd be 6. A lot of us thought 6 for the Panthers. But Edmonton, I'll tell you what, they had a lot going for themselves. They had a lot of heart, a lot of guts, and it took them a long ways. But I'm just still disappointed. I know Kenny Holland came there and was hired for one main reason, and that was obviously to bring a cup, as he had done the Magic in Detroit, as you guys mentioned, 4 times before that. So, hey, all in all, it was a great finish, but I do feel bad for the Oilers fans. But Florida came back, and give them credit.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this. The Edmonton Oilers, and I've said this all along, when they were in the playoffs, they were on house money. Nobody expected them to do anything. They really didn't. I mean, and the fact that they got there in the manner that they did, and they gave the Panthers everything they had, to me, that's impressive. Now, Kenny Holland left, but you know who they just recently hired? Stan Bowman is the new general manager, formerly of the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, so let's go back to the chat room. All right, Turbo Jet Bottom. Rod, if you're up to it, I would like to add you to our Panther group chat where we text during games. I don't know. Do you want to do that or not?
I'd be honored.
Okay, there you go. We'll see. We'll see how we can do that. D. Lowe's, that's 44 years in the business. Get you, George. You can predict things like that. You'll get there someday. That was good. Yeah. Oh yeah, the group chat is during the playoffs. All right. Hey, I'll tell you one thing: you won't find a more passionate group of individuals in this chat room that are hockey people and Panthers, and that's why they look forward to Monday when this show comes on. All right, Turbo Jet Bottom. If I'm honest here, I don't think George fit in on the hockey show, but you sure have changed my mind, George. George is killing it on the show. Well, you know what, Turbo Jet Bottom, you're just so used to seeing him on baseball, but the reality is that George and I have that original 6 mentality that he can talk hockey. Hockey and baseball are his best sports. They really are. And that's why I made the decision to bring him on tonight, and he'll be on next week as well. And I'll continue to add more and more people, with George getting the majority of the snaps, but other people will be in here to make it interesting as well. Rod and I, we set the table for this whole thing anyways. So now Joshua Dorr back to ball buster. Rod, I think Rod would be a good ball buster in the group. And you know what a ball buster is? They like to agitate each other. You'll get to know in times.
Can I say something? Can I chit?
Yeah.
I know you got to do baseball here right away, but there's one thing I'm interested to see where this goes with the Panthers fans, because they've been unbelievable to me, better than any fan base has ever been, and I've been around. But I'm interested to see where this goes, because before you and I hooked up, Scott, I was rattling off these stats. The 1942 Leafs, everybody was talking about it, that they came back and won. But what nobody was talking about was the 1945 Leafs did what the Panthers did, blew a 3-0 lead, and then came back and won Game 7. And I had Panthers fans say to me, we don't care about anything that happened before 1970. And I was like, well, then you're not going to like me, because I think, like, I'm not ancient, but we have to understand there was a world before you were born, kids. Like, this is what built the National Hockey League history. So, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to talk about this stuff. And if you're not interested, don't watch. But I wonder, because I hope South Florida now is a legitimate hockey market. We've talked about it on past shows. They've left the group of non-Stanley Cup winners. They're now in the group of haves and winners. Will it change their outlook? I don't know. I'm interested to find out.
Yeah, but if they continue to play good, consistent hockey, you'll see them mirror themselves like the Lightning. But that's we'll have to see how this goes. I'm not going to sit here and go that way yet. I need to see more consistency with them getting to the finals, or at least the final four, to be convinced. Yeah, and I used to never see people, Josh Shador, wearing Panthers gear. I see people rocking Panthers shirts and hats everywhere. Of course, Josh, they're all going to get on the bandwagon of a Stanley Cup. What do you expect? I should give you a ball buster for saying that. Come on, Josh. Ball buster. What are you, nuts? Okay,
That's
Tampa
good.
was not a hockey town until they won the Cup. Thanks for making my point. Okay, we'll see whether the Panthers are a hockey town, because they never won one either.
Yeah,
All you have to do is go to those games and see how many of the opponents' jerseys were there. So, Josh, you just made our point for us. Okay, maybe there's hope for you after all in the chat room, because you never want to come on the air anyways and face the music. So
This is good.
It is good. It is good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, these guys are entertaining. They definitely are. I mean, they live for this stuff. All right.
You're entertaining, Scott. Forget about them. You're the one that's making me laugh.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Right. Yeah, all we do is come up with stats. All this guy comes up with his ball busters or whatever. Now he's going to be looking like a dog with his tongue wagging, is what will end up happening there, Rod. Mark my word. If you knew this guy, you knew I'd be right about that. You say you have baseball tonight, or you're just
No. I know you guys got another show after this. So
oh, we're making good on time, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, I say Turbo Jet Bottom. I hope Rod and Scott can get credentials for the games this year to cover the game. Well, it's funny how you say that. Rod and I, once he gets back in town, are going to try to see what we can do collectively as a tandem, right, Rod? Why don't you explain what your intentions are for what we're looking to try to do?
Oh, nothing. I've gone to Panthers games since I moved to South Florida 3 years ago. I've been in the press box and had media credentials for the last 3 years. So I'm just anticipating this year I will go representing the South Florida Tribune, as well as the Cats and Bolts podcast, which is the show that my wife and I have been doing for the last season. So that's the plan. Nothing's going to really change. For anybody that knows, Scott said, would you mind going to all the Panthers games? Because our viewers are dying for Panthers talk. And he goes, I see you're there all the time, so would you mind carrying our flag? I'm like, I would love to. That's how this all happened here.
Yeah, and then obviously with Rod obviously inside, I have no problem covering the Panthers. I did during COVID-19, and I had to make sure I had sort of those questionnaires. The main thing is my studio work is extremely busy, plus what I do on the weekends. My weekends are my recess to go to places. But Joshua was asking me, do you voice your opinions on the Panthers organization on here? Joshua, Rod will tell you that, some individuals, he's not going to put any names out there. Some PR people, you have to just be what you have to use velvet gloves or something. You have to be really soft with them. And I have nothing against them per se. I got news here. Their drive is only 15, 20 minutes from where I live. So I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to pay $20, $30 to park there either. I'm lucky. But the reality is I'm so caught up with everything that we're trying to do, building a network and trying to do a lot of things. I think as I go forward in 2025, though, and I'll say this to Rod and George, and I think George knows it and Rod getting to know it. For me, it's all going to be about covering places that give you the most access before I go ahead and prioritize where I want to be. And I'm trying to identify where those individuals and places are going into 25. It's a constant evaluation process. So, but let's just go back to what Rod said. The Panthers will not be a part of a group that has not won a Stanley Cup. They took care of that, and they got that gorilla off their back. That's what it comes down to.
That's very important. Very important. And like you said, they got it off their back. And I think obviously that's the first thing you got to do. And then you got to see, the excitement's got to continue next season for them. They want to continue it. You just don't want it out this thing. You got to make that change. You got to make that commitment, whether you're a fan or whether you're a player. I mean, you want to go forward with some winning attitude, and you've got the cup now to brag about. So obviously that's going to help them.
Well, we all know Bill Zito's undoubtedly one of the best general managers in the business. And you see what he's taken with a dysfunctional franchise and made them relevant. I mean, that's just all there is to it. You look at all the hardships that the Panthers have had to deal with, and Bill Zito's done an excellent job turning them into an elite franchise. Time will tell whether he can continue to do that. And I'll tell you, the Eastern Conference is a tough conference. It really is. So, and it's not going to be easy to get in the playoffs every year. But the Panthers have to worry about the championship situation for sure. So as we get ready to wrap up the show, George and Rod, obviously we're glad to have you on tonight. Obviously, I'm planning on you guys rejoining next week. And as I mentioned with Rod, our goal is to talk about Florida topics, but we're looking to expand the hockey coverage beyond just local. We're looking to talk about on a national level, and that's what we've done. Joshua Door Panthers gone from worst to best franchise in South Florida in 6 years or so. Well, again, they've had to endure some hardships, and again, if they've done that, well, Bill Zito's the reason why, Joshua. So, all right, Rod, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, there are. I know we got to wrap it up, but I was just looking at this the other day with Panthers fans. They carry a lot of baggage. They carry a lot of wounds. 10 straight years they missed the playoffs, right? 12 out of 13. And I just think they don't realize the good times are over. Because I hear from them all the time. My wife calls it short man syndrome. And they're always got a chip on their shoulder. I'm like, guys, you won. The good times are here. They're going to be good again. And I can't wait for training camp to open. I'm hearing this. Maybe you guys are from hockey fans. They're like, I miss hockey. We miss hockey. Yeah, we all do. But you know what? Get a hobby. Watch baseball. Whatever. Hockey will be here before you know it. So enjoy summer, what's left.
Yeah, and I said on another show the other day that I do believe that the Panthers should enjoy hanging out with the Stanley Cup and taking it wherever the heck they want because, like you say, come September, all these little nice stories that you have here, the grind starts again. It just does. And for the Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, well, we'll see if they're a tale of two Florida markets, and I'll have other stats backing up on that as well. George, any closing thoughts real quick? We have baseball at the top of the hour, but we're doing really great on time, so nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and the only closing thought I want is to say congratulations to Pavel Datsyuk, who got the call from the Hockey Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. Pavel is going to be joining the class of 2024 in Toronto later this year, so I'm happy for him. Great career at the Red Wings. He had a marvelous Stanley Cup victory with the Red Wings, and then, of course, he's gone back to Russia now to play and maybe someday be a full-time head coach there. So there are a lot of people that didn't think he'd make it, with this situation going on, unfortunately, with Russia and Ukraine. And no, that had nothing to do with his credentials and his ability to make the Hockey Hall of Fame. So hats off to Pavel Datsyuk, great player, and carry on the tradition of great Detroit Red Wings in that Hall of Fame.
Well, good. I didn't know that, but glad that we have some fresh news about the Hall of Fame. We all know the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame was done recently, and then the Baseball Hall of Fame recently as well. So with that said, as we get ready to wrap up the show, George, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of it? You can go ahead and promote the book that you have me in.
I got I write for the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune. You'll find my column. At the end of my column is always a link to get a copy of my book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. I'm pointing the wrong way. Candy's got an image of it right there. But Scott's in that book, and you talk about hockey greats, man. You got Bud Lynch, Bruce Martin, Ken Daniels, Dave Strader. We've had Ken Kell, outstanding announcers in Detroit. And they're all featured in the book as well. Scott's in the book. I'm in the book. And you can reach me too on Yahoo at gicorn.com, or follow me on Twitter at SanGSports99. And as Scott mentioned, follow me on the following show, 108 Stitches on Monday nights, the Sports Exchange on Wednesday nights, and be happy to be on with you, Rod, and you, Scott, on this great Fire Up Florida.
All right, Rod, let everybody know how you get a hold of you.
Who, me?
Yeah,
at
you.
Rod Peters, at Rod Peterson. That's all you need. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Rod Peterson Official. Hey, I'm just, Rod, when do you get back to Florida? Labor Day weekend, Joshua. We're entering the playoffs in baseball here in Canada, and then I got a couple business things to take care of. I'll be back Labor Day weekend. So I was just enjoying spellbound listening to George's voice. You do a great job, George, and we all know Scott does too. So it's an honor to be on this. That's what it is, Josh. And I'm on national television in Canada daily, noon to 2 on the Game Plus television network. So, yeah, I do that out of the Florida in the winter. So,
well, there you go, Josh. And of course, and like I've said time and time again, and I'll say it one more time, Rod and I have a lot of great ideas, okay, for what we're going to do collectively as a team. Well, Josh Shador, I think Rod should do the audio for Scott's audio book. Why would you ever be interested in doing that?
Why not? I got nothing else to do.
I'll have to think about that one. We'll talk about that when I meet you. I'm looking at other pals' ideas because one of my initial plans didn't work out as well as I had hoped. But we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you what, Joshua, is going to be in Lessons from the Microphone Part 2. With that said, we're going to have Candy on here for one last station break. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is at the top of the hour. Go ahead, Candy. Take us home.
If you see that red subscribe button, hit us, like us, share us. Tell all your friends. Monday nights, we're talking hockey. We talk baseball later. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you just never know what we might be talking. Anything from Olympics, NFL, cornhole, hot dog eating contest. You just never know. You got to tune in to find out. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can see the writings of George and Scott and the transcripts if you like football, Dolphins, Jaguars, Lions, and all kinds of the local colleges. Go to our website, check us out. Also, we have a link to our store so you can get South Florida Tribune merchandise. You can get a hat. You can get a sweatshirt, sweatpants, t-shirt, you name it. Go check us out. If you like to listen to podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, we're there. Check us out there as well. If you want to sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. Last but not least, that book that we were talking about, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, written by Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. And George wrote the beginning. Go check it out. It's available on Amazon, Google, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, or Apple Books. Back to you, Scott.
And also on Twitter/X at Tribune South. All right, we'll go with a couple more of Joshua George. Great show tonight. Cornhole hosted by Eric Katz. Well, that's okay. At least you're being somewhat nice about him there. I can let that one go through. Rod is a great addition to the network. Hockey night is the best night in South Florida Tribune. Hey, I'm telling you, Rod, I knew what we were doing when we worked out this thing, and obviously the evidence is in the chat room. So great stuff there, D-Lowe's. Your comments much appreciated. This is the best show, so SFT hands down. Good, glad you like it. Scott, hats out to you for bringing Rod in. You know what, Rod? That's what, and George, when I have the opportunity to meet people with the various different social media, I aim to look for talent, and I'm proud of all the talent I have and all the talent I'm about to get. So, yeah. Meanwhile, what can I say, Rod? Labor Day weekend won't get here fast enough, will it?
Takes one to know one, buddy. Thanks to all the kind words from everybody. We'll see you in a week.
And you
Stay
also,
cool.
Thank you, Rod.
Yeah, I'll have some great topics, obviously, next week. But I want to make sure that we have a good balance in the show. I think we definitely accomplished that. So Scott knows that we treat new broadcasters how we treat new broadcasters on his channel. Yeah, you don't want to know that one, but Rod passed his test quickly, so I don't mind knowing that. There you go. some built-in RESPECT. All right. So meanwhile, that concludes this edition of Fire Up Florida. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is at the top of the hour. So on behalf of my crew, Rod Peterson, Mr. Hockey on our end, and George Eichhorn, Mr. Colleague for 4 decades and counting, this is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Florida, and we will see you next Monday night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.